And now that we're talking about sales, I read a blog post on your website, which is packed of them, about one of them, let's call it mistakes, about handing off sales and delegating sales a bit too early. And I thought that
Mhm.
was a very interesting story that I think people can really get value from. So if you can tell me when, how that happened, or tell me a bit more about that story and what you learned from that.
Yeah. So basically, like one of the biggest mistakes that I made the first time I tried to hand off sales,
Mhm.
and I just see so many people make, is basically like you're like, oh, like I want to get out of sales.
Right.
And so like I want to just hand that off and delegate that like any other role at the company. And I was, delegating off all this op stuff and it was going great. So I was like, oh, cool, I'll get like sales. But sales is something where it is a lot more, it's a lot more skill driven.
Mhm.
And especially in a service company,
Yeah, for
where
sure.
if you're doing anything like that, where it's not like, oh, just taking orders, it's consultative.
Mhm.
And so, the first time I handed over sales, like it was honestly really loose. And what you don't realize is like, my business advisor is Alex McClafferty. He talks about like the master splinter concept. So you got like Master Splinter at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and he tells them to go do something, and then they all just are idiots and they screwed up, and he's like, ugh, like. But it's like this thing where like you don't realize the inherent knowledge you have and you're bringing to those conversations, until you try to hand it to someone, and then they just like blow it, and then you're like, holy crap, like this, there's so much that it's not as easy as just like handing over, like do this process. It is much more qualitative. And so the first time I handed it off was a complete failure. Literally our sales plummeted. I had to lay off 6 people. It was
Wow,
horrible.
that sucks.
So there's also very heavy costs of screwing this
Right.
up. And the second time I handed it over, like I had turned into a robot. Like I was just showing up on calls, and it was just like, this is how you close deals. And it was like very systematic, very repetitive. I had optimized everything. I'd put like Zapiers in place. I had built forms to like input new customers into the system and how I was going to communicate that from sales to the ops team. And then the only like qualitative thing was like deciding, are they a good fit or not?
Right.
Like that was the only thing that I really had to train and advise on and really get someone up to speed on. But we could like have those conversations, or you could say, hey, let me think on this. I'll talk with the team and we'll get back to you. But that was like, I removed as much of that as I could. So there was like the smallest amount of qualitative decisions to still make.